Welcome to Nourish MD, Doctor Dietitian Dialogues, where doctors and dietitians empower you about your health and discuss and provide a better path to health and wellness. Proudly presented by Concierge Medical Practice Private Physicians Medical Associates, PPMA, with your hosts, Registered Dietitians and Nutritionist, Papanos and Romana Brennan.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nourish MD. I am your host, Papanos, joined by my co-host, Romana Brennan. And today we're going to be talking about how to set and stick to your New Year's health goals. Now that the holiday season is over, I'm sure you're starting to think about how to realistically get back on track and how to really set goals that you're going to be able to succeed with. As you probably know that most of the New Year's health goals that we set, most individuals don't end up actually sticking with for very much longer than February. So let's kind of first start off just talking about how to beat the post-holiday blues that can happen. I think the most common things we see with patients is dealing with constipation, digestive changes, kind of this overall feeling of bloating, maybe even more water retention, or maybe even weight gain that's occurred because of changes in food patterns, maybe alcohol consumption, less exercise, more travel, less sleep, all of those things that can cause us to feel more inflamed. So a few strategies that you can really explore during this time of year is first and foremost is just setting some boundaries on what you have available in the house. I think it's really important. I know I always do this after holidays. People leave food or, we get leftovers when we go somewhere and you want to have it the next day, maybe because it was so good. But then after that, my rule is the day after I've had it from the party, it either goes in the freezer if it's something that I really want to preserve for a lengthy period of time, or it gets donated or it gets trashed. So just setting those boundaries so that it's not something there that's constantly tempting you can be a really helpful way to be able to get back on track. And then with that is also making sure you're stocking the house with really easily accessible, healthy items that are going to be things that are, don't require a lot of preparation, that you enjoy the flavor of, that are really easy for you to be able to put together for quick meals and snacks for yourself. As it relates to some of the specific digestive changes, I would focus on trying to incorporate some of these more natural laxative type sources that may help to just be able to get things moving. When you are backed up and constipated, it can definitely perpetuate this feeling of like excess fluid retention and inflammation and bloating, right? So there are a couple of things that can be really useful. Aloe vera is one of our secret tools that we really love. It is a natural plant compound. You can buy it as a liquid, so that's like a food source, or you can buy it supplementally as well. We typically recommend starting with the food-based option. You can get it at pretty much any of your natural health food stores, so Sprouts, Whole Foods, Mother's. It's generally going to be in the juice aisle or in the supplement section, but it will be actually a food. It's just sold in the supplement section. And you're looking for the inner fillet. So there's going to be a whole leaf version and an inner fillet version. You want to stick with the inner fillet. And we recommend starting with about a quarter of a cup, maybe once or twice per day, to be able to help with that motility. Of course, always check with your healthcare practitioner to make sure that that's something safe for you, as there are some contraindications with aloe vera consumption. But if there are none, then it could be a really great tool for you. It's also a great natural anti-inflammatory for the gut as well. Magnesium citrate can also be a great resource. This is also something you could pick up at your health food store or on our full script dispensary. Magnesium citrate is just a form of magnesium. The magnesium is bound to what's called citrate, and this has a very natural laxative property in our digestive tract, and that's going to bring water into the gut. It's going to help facilitate more bowel movements. And so if you're generally someone that's taking maybe even like magnesium glycinate, you could just switch over to taking citrate for a couple of weeks until you start to feel like things are back on track. Also making sure that you're consuming adequate electrolytes. In order for the water you drink to actually hydrate your cells, you need adequate electrolytes. And electrolytes also help us make digestive juices like stomach acid and enzymes that help us to be able to break down food to prevent things like bloating after we eat. So, making sure you're getting in adequate potassium and unrefined sodium and magnesium are really all key pieces. You can definitely incorporate these through food sources. And then you can also use things like unrefined salt in the cooking process, such as Celtic salt or Redmond's real salt, to be able to help provide that unrefined sodium source. Really ensuring that before you eat your meals that we're really working on activating what we call our rest and digest state. Our body only makes digestive juices when we are in this rest and digest state. Our body's not making digestive juices when we're running from a tiger, right? So we want to make sure that before we sit down for a meal and start chewing, that we're really intentional of our breathing patterns. If you feel stressed, if you feel anxious, you feel like you're rushing around, take a few moments to just take a few deep belly exhales, inhales and exhales to ensure that you can slow down your heart rate and really get your body into that rest and digest state. This is going to help tremendously with preventing some of that post-meal bloating and also helping to be able to move the food that you do eat through your digestive system quicker.
And another topic of conversation around this time and leading up to the holidays, but now that we're past the holidays, is the relationship with alcohol. And how do we want to navigate alcohol throughout 2025 as we're going into this new year? One question that we get a lot is, I'm going to have alcohol anyway. What is a safe amount for me to have? And I don't think it comes as any surprise, but ideally, no alcohol is the safest amount of alcohol, right? Plenty of government health organizations like the CDC, like WHO, they do recommend that upper limit, or what they would consider safe, to be 1 drink for women daily and upwards of 2 drinks for men. And that's per day. And then as it pertains to the recommended amount per week, 7 drinks for women per week, be just 1 drink every day, and 14 for men. So that doesn't mean having all 14 drinks on one day. If you're going to, the saving up theory doesn't necessarily work for that as well. We can limit alcohol as best as possible. We know that it's a toxin. So any way that we can get a little bit more curious too about our relationship with alcohol and the setting in which we are consuming alcohol. If it is something that you're used to having with dinner, after dinner, just get a little bit more curious in terms of why you feel the need. And I know that that can lead to a much larger conversation that we won't get into today. But if you are going to have alcohol, how can you prepare your body before and after, just so that you can tolerate it as best as possible? And we know that alcohol is affecting our liver. Our liver is in charge of detoxifying, whether it's alcohol or chemicals that we're getting from the environment or from the foods that we're eating. All of that is coming to the liver, and the liver's job is to filter that out, detoxify it, get it all packaged up for us to eventually eliminate it. One thing that you can do to support your liver before alcohol consumption is taking what is called N-acetylcysteine. N-acetylcysteine is also found as NAC, but this is available in supplement form, and it's a precursor to glutathione. Glutathione is actually an antioxidant. That is what we would call the master antioxidant in the liver, and it's in charge of making sure that this liver detoxification happens adequately. And so supplementing with something like NAC can be that helpful precursor to make sure that your body does process that alcohol as efficiently as possible. You would want to make sure to take that beforehand and not after, just because it can have almost the opposite effect if you are taking it after alcohol consumption. So we would recommend 600 milligrams prior to, and then after the fact, if maybe we didn't have NAC on hand, you can always consume some activated charcoal afterwards. That is a natural binder and can essentially help kind of sponge up the toxins from the alcohol. So those would be 2 options to utilize both before and after from a supplementation perspective. But again, I would encourage you to just get a little bit more curious about alcohol consumption as you're moving into the new year. I know some people will do like a dry January. That's a good opportunity to just take the time and reflect on that relationship. If you are drinking, I would say some of the better alcohol options would include more healthful wine options, old world wine from Spain, France, Italy, and then, of course, mocktails are all the rage right now. We just want to make sure that we are minimizing the sugar content, just because a lot of the times those can be juice-based. So if we are having that, making sure we're having it with a meal, maybe utilizing more of the sparkling water as a base as opposed to juice as a base. So just some considerations as it comes to alcohol. Lauren, why don't we shift gears a little bit and talk about circadian rhythms and how that pertains to health as we enter the new year?
Yeah, so circadian rhythm is a term that essentially just means our body's own internal governing clocks. So every organ system in our body has a clock that essentially regulates when things happen throughout the day, and it's all governed by light. So when we get light exposure on our eyes in the morning, that's what tells our brain to turn on these clocks, if you will. And when we see darkness in the evening time, that really tells our brain the opposite of these processes. So what we found is that in today's day and age, more people have what we call like circadian rhythm disruption, where we're not getting that light exposure in the morning time to be able to really turn on these clocks efficiently as we should be. And we're getting too much light exposure in the evening time. And so the clocks aren't getting the message to go to sleep, essentially. So that's kind of how we can think about this. But a lot of times when it is the holidays, we might see a lot of disruption with our circadian rhythm because maybe you're traveling, you might be on a different time zone, you're staying up late for parties, you're watching holiday movies with your family, whatever it might be, you're sleeping in because you don't have to work or go to school or whatever it is, right? So your circadian rhythm can get disrupted because it really loves these consistent routines and timing of when we're doing things. And so one helpful thing you can do is when January hits and you're trying to get back on track, the first thing you want to do in the morning time is get outside and get some light on your eyes. This can be through a walk. It can be through sitting outside. Just make sure that your eyes are exposed. So you're not wearing sunglasses or a hat. Even if it's overcast, you're still getting tons of bright light. And it's much brighter than the light that you would get inside of your house. Even if you have tons of windows inside of your house, those windows are still filtering that light. And so it is essential that that light is actually directly on your eyes, that you're not looking at it through a window or through whatever type of method that there might be out there. Another secondary option for this is using what are called like white light therapy lamps. These are things you can find on Amazon. We like the company called Verilux, and it is equivalent to the same light you would get in the sun that's been tested in research, which is about 10,000 lux units. That's the amount that you would want to be able to really get that signal to your brain. Hey, it's morning time, turn on these clocks. And then really focusing on that last hour before you go to bed, trying to set some boundaries on electronic usage and, shut down your phone, try to get off of things like your television and, even dimming the lights in the house can be a very helpful technique. Researchers have shown that the closer the electronic is to you, the more damaging it is to this. So I would focus on your phone first because it's going to be much closer to your face, and then maybe your TV last. That's generally going to be further away from your face. But we want to try to set a boundary of not utilizing these types of electronics in that last hour before bed, so that our brain is getting this clear signal that it's dark out and that it's time to make melatonin and really down-regulate these processes in the body.
Yeah, and I have some individuals too who might be reading on an iPad or a Kindle, and you just want to be mindful too if something is backlit, even if you are reading, which is generally an encouraged practice before you go to bed, but just be aware if you're using a device before bed to read.
Hi, my name is Lauren Papanos. I'm one of the registered dietitians here at PPMA. And as a PPMA patient, you might have heard us rave about the benefits of using FullScript before. FullScript is our online supplement dispensary. That means that you can access our library of hundreds and thousands of different professional grade supplements that can be delivered to your doorstep. What you'll find here is every supplement at the clinical and therapeutic dosages of what's been shown in research to support various different health benefits, as well as the highest quality. All of the supplements that are provided through FullScript have been third-party tested for accuracy within the label, and they also use quality assurance to ensure that it is stored at the proper temperature and delivered to your doorstep at the proper temperature as well, which is really important because a lot of companies that you're purchasing at the supermarket, Costco, Amazon, so on and so forth, aren't taking all of these measures. FullScript also provides us as your practitioner the ability to keep track of everything that you're currently taking, the amounts, the frequency, so that we have more context when you come in for a new appointment to understand any health modifications that we may recommend. Plus, the best benefit about FullScript is you get 15% off on every order. Now, if you have any questions, please never hesitate to reach out and ask us. Or if you're looking for a customized recommendation, you can schedule a nutrition consultation with our registered dietitian, Romana, who would be happy to review your testing results, gather more information about your nutrition and lifestyle to provide you a customized recommendation suited for your goals.
In addition to the circadian rhythm and as it pertains to new practices throughout the new year after the holidays, after maybe vacations, kind of getting back into the rhythm of work or daily routines. It's really important to set yourself up for success in terms of stress management, right? We're entering in a new season, a new year, and really want to make sure that we have those tools in our toolbox to support a healthy nervous system response, which is that stress response. So one way that we can help manage time stress, if you're someone who maybe normally outside of the holidays, you do have a really busy schedule, you do have a really busy routine, often on the go, meal prep can be a really helpful resource for you. We do offer meal prep specific sessions if you are a PPMA patient and want to get scheduled for a meal prep session, just so we can strategize going into the new year. I'd be more than happy to support you with that. But meal prepping and at least having certain aspects of your meals ready to go, just so that you can plug things in and make sure that you are nourishing yourself well. It's going to only help you feel good, promote good mood, and overall can be really motivating to know that you are taking care of your health during this time. And as you're starting a new year, as you're starting a new month, just getting off on the right foot, right? There are also meal delivery services. There are so many out there now that a lot of them have really good options. Even if you just wanted someone or a service to support you with prepping proteins, let's just say you can take care of maybe like a starchy side, like potatoes or quinoa, something like that. But where that bottleneck for you is really having healthy proteins on hand. There are plenty of meal services that will send you a la carte protein options so that you know that you always have that aspect of your meal taken care of. There's one, for example, that we like called Metabolic Meals, but there are so many others. So if you have questions about that, again, we are a resource for you. But that could be a really helpful tool for you just to make sure that you are nourishing yourself well, especially if there are time constraints or schedule restrictions for you.
Also, something to note on that too is if you are a PPMA patient, we have the meal planning workshop that we did, and that was a few months ago, but it's part of our recordings. And so if you're wanting to go back and look through how to know which meal planning service to pick, I did a whole workshop on all the different pros and cons and things to know about each of the different options that are available. So that would be a really great resource to reference before you pick maybe like what company you're going to pursue.
Yes, absolutely. So informative. So definitely make sure that you check out that session that Lauren did. And another consideration, you want to maybe simplify things a little bit. Oftentimes we spend much more than we need to if we are focusing on some of these fancier packaged food items. We can save a lot of money and save a lot of resources if we just get back to the basics. Plan your meals ahead of time. If you plan accordingly, you can also really help decrease a lot of food waste. This is especially important if you have been traveling, if you were eating out. When in doubt, we can always just get back to the basics.
Yeah, so we're going to get into a little bit of a popcorn here and just kind of go back and forth asking each other some questions of how we handle this time of year to hopefully inspire some conversation that you could explore as well. So Romana, how do you approach getting back into an exercise routine after the holidays?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I give myself a lot of grace over the holidays, especially if we are traveling. But one thing that's kind of a non-negotiable is at least to move my body. Maybe it doesn't mean having that resistance training workout happening every week, but at least if I can move my body, go on walks, get outside, I go into the new year feeling so much better. If I don't hit the ground running, getting back into my workout routine, at least if I can get some movement in throughout the holidays and leading into the new year, that makes me feel really good. But I'm someone who really benefits from having a plan laid out for me. So it's really helpful for me to utilize resources that I'm familiar with, that I like, to get back into a routine, something that is like a resistance training plan that I can fall back on and kind of jump into. So I would say for anyone who doesn't know where to start, maybe it is having a gym membership where they do have classes for you, or if you do have the means to get a personal trainer, I can always attest to the fact that it's so much more helpful to have someone who can just kind of tell you what to do as you're getting back into it. So that's how I would approach getting back into exercise. And Lauren, what are some strategies that help you as a very busy professional stick to your health goals with the busy schedule?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is just having everything time blocked. So I'm a big calendar person and I put everything on my phone calendar, whether it's personal, work-related things. I have it all blocked out there, including my workouts, including what I'm eating, including when I'm going to the grocery store. I pretty much map it all out there because if I don't, then it will slip my mind and I will forget about it as the day goes on. And I won't also work my schedule around it. So it's very helpful if you have it already blocked on your calendar, because then if someone, asks if you can do something with them at 12 o'clock, you get that pushback from your calendar. Oh, hey, you actually have your lunch scheduled at 12 o'clock. You're going to have to schedule them at 1 p.m. or something of that sort. So I think having a calendar or some type of scheduling system like that can be really essential. I also find that having some things prepped going into the week is also really helpful. And the weeks when I don't do as good of a job of this, I definitely notice how I struggle with my nutrition. Even working mostly at home, when you're busy, you just don't have the time to cook and chop and go grocery shopping and all those things that it requires. So making sure that you have some staples already in the fridge that are just really easy for you to turn to. I would definitely make sure to map out a grocery list every week of what are those staples. And really, like Romana said, take some time to plan out your meals and snacks for the week so that you can make sure you have those items in the house first and foremost. But then secondly, also take some time to prep some things that you can throw together really quickly for a quick breakfast or a quick lunch or for a quick dinner on the nights that you're really busy. Those are going to be really key ways to make sure that you stay on track. That's something that you enjoy. And as she also mentioned, decreasing food waste too, because if you buy only what you need because you've already mapped it out and then you prep it, there's a much higher likelihood that you're actually going to utilize it. And that produce isn't just going to sit in the fridge for 5 days and go bad by the time you actually have time to be able to prep it. So Romana, why don't you tell us just like some tips you might have for navigating family events and social gatherings after the holidays that help you to be able to stay on track?
Yeah. And I think even during the holidays, I know that's not the exact question, but during the holidays, one thing that's helpful for us, we've kind of spread out our family events. So it's not like everything is happening within these couple of days around the holidays, but I find that it just eases the pressure quite a bit if we are able to spread out those events. So if you have any control over the scheduling of it, I know most of the time we don't, but that's something that has really helped me and my family just in terms of being able to have a little bit of breathing room between events. But even after the holidays, it feels like a lot of people can either rally together or be very comparative about their health goals. And I think just having a little bit of perspective and knowing that if your goal is truly something that matters to you, it's much more helpful to stick to it. So being curious about why you're setting that goal and getting to the root of why it's important to you, because I think a lot of the time we set goals that might not actually matter to us. They're just goals that we think people should have during the new year, right? So I think that's from more of the mental piece of things, is actually making sure that you're setting goals that are important to you, because it's so much easier to fall off the wagon about something that you don't care about. And then at that point in time, if you can even distill your goals to be, maybe it's just 2 or 3 things that are important to you, as opposed to a whole laundry list of daily habits that feel obligatory by January 31st. I think if it's something that matters to you, and if someone is questioning why you have those goals during a family event or social gathering, you have a little bit more of a leg to stand on in terms of explaining why that's important to you. And I think people can respect that. Or if you're around people who might not respect that, as opposed to getting defensive, there's always some easy conversation pivoters. Completely change the conversation, or just saying, this is important to me, but how is your day going? Or how were your holidays? So we can always pivot the conversation, as opposed to feeling like we're getting defensive of it. But hopefully you're surrounding yourself with people who would support your goals. And again, if it's really important to you, hopefully you're comfortable having a longer conversation about it. But I know that can look different for a lot of different people. So Lauren, to close this out, why don't you give us some tips that help you feel your best while you're traveling?
Yes, I think this time of year there can still be quite a bit of travel involved, some of that residual travel, or maybe even just getting back on track with like work and other commitments that do require travel. So a few things for me that are really critical is making sure that I bring some staple items with me that I know make me feel my best. So I'm typically not actually a big like snack packer. I'll pack a couple of things, but I do really make sure that I have some of my daily vitamins and supplements because those always just help me feel very structured. They help things still feel routine. And I know that there's going to be more deficits in my diet when I'm traveling. And so having those vitamins on hand is even more critical during that period of time because they're filling in the gaps of what I know that I'm really not getting with the meals I'm eating out at mainly restaurants and things. A second thing that I always do is I will either Instacart or Uber Eats or do some type of grocery delivery service to wherever I'm staying. Or if we're next to a health food store, then I will go there first thing when I arrive. And this generally I'll do when I'm at the airport or when I'm leaving the airport and I'm in the Uber from the airport to wherever I'm going, is I will Instacart a couple of staple items that can be thrown in the mini fridge or things that are also shelf stable that I can have on hand to be able to really fill in for breakfast because most of the time it's very challenging to get good, healthy breakfast. A lot of American breakfasts are very carb dense. They're very oatmeal, pastry, sugar based, which are not the ways that we really want to start our day for good energy and blood sugar levels. And so you can get some very easy things like coconut yogurt, protein beverages that are already pre-made, berries, nuts, seeds, things of this sort that you can have delivered. And you can actually make a breakfast at the hotel or at the house, wherever you're staying, that's going to actually give you stable energy levels. It's really going to set the tone for better blood sugar regulation the rest of the day, less food cravings alongside of that, and honestly, just setting you up for success. So I always make sure I have those items on hand before I even get there so that it's like a non-negotiable that they're there and I'm not even going to think about what the other alternative options could be. And then I know from there that lunch and dinner will be much easier to figure out whether I'm at a restaurant or, I'm at someone's house, whatever it is, that it's going to be much easier to be able to put the basics together to make that work for myself.
That's such a good idea. And then you're in control over the timing of that first meal too. I find that during travel, it can be a really big challenge. If you're meeting people for a meal, you might wake up at 7, but your breakfast might not be until 10 o'clock. So I love that tip. And I think that's super helpful. Awesome, everyone. Well, Happy New Year. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and we will catch you again in 2 weeks.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Nourish MD, Dr. Dietitian Dialogues. This podcast is intended for general educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice. Please consult with your healthcare provider before beginning any nutrition or supplement recommendations. Sign up for our mailing list so you'll never miss an episode of our wellness journey. See the podcast description for the link.